Thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to the contributions that each of you will make. You all have different experiences, and we have a course designer here too. It'll be interesting to hear her insight on how this all works. In line with the goal to help students teach one another, I thought, how can we do that perhaps better on optional discussion boards? And by optional discussion boards, I mean discussion boards that aren't graded. So any place where students are discussing things and it's not a graded setting. All right. So we will start out by reminding ourselves of the vision of students teaching one another and perhaps the reality in our classrooms. And then we will discuss how to extend the BYU-Idaho experience to these students and how optional discussion boards might fit into that goal. All right, some of you may have seen this. So as we watch these short clips, I've edited them down a little bit. Think about your class and think about the goals of the students and think about how things might be really going on in our classes.
I came to challenge myself.
I came to be with people who share my values.
I came to be more than just a student.
They will be natural leaders who know how to teach and how to learn. Those graduates of BYU-Idaho will become, and this is a prophecy that I am prepared to make and make solemnly. Those graduates of BYU-Idaho will become legendary for their capacity to build people around them and to add value wherever they serve.
All right. Now let's consider what the reality might be.
I would have migrated to colonial America because I always seek freedom from oppression.
I wouldn't have migrated because the abandonment of family would have forbidden me from such an act.
I agree.
I agree.
Thanks.
I believe I need more information before I can reasonably respond, huh? Where am I from? What social demographic do I come from, huh?
Five minutes left, it's time. This is my chance to shine.
I believe the color yellow is used to represent cowardice.
I thought that the color lemon was used to represent a lack of bravery.
I believe that's what I just said, Carrie.
Wow, great insight. I would have never thought of this.
I agree.
It reminds me of a time in my life when I was in a similar situation as King Richard.
Great comment, great.
This is so awesome. I learned so much.
I wouldn't want to be doing anything else in the whole wide world.
I agree. Smiley face.
LOL.
That was awesome. A's for everyone.
Great comment.
Sorry, I'm late. I had a thing. Before our students previously stated I want to migrate it.
I agree.
In fact, I use that empty classroom as a reason that they can't enter a conversation, comment after it's been closed.
You know,
Because all
because
they're
of the
walking
empty
into is
classroom.
an empty classroom.
Yeah,
Nobody's listening, nobody's, yeah.
that's great. So, so you know, this is called the Teacherless Classroom, and it was focused on you know, the teachers playing a more integral role in interacting with students on discussion boards. But what I wanted to focus on is how the students are teaching one another in these discussion boards. What were some of the problems that you saw in that little video clip as you think about the interaction students were having? Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I've been teaching online for 15 years now, and one of the things that I insist on my students, first of all, I have them make a substantial, their first posting must be substantial.
Okay, so
about a page long.
Okay.
Right. But then their comments have to be more than just, I agree with Marcy.
Right.
You need to tell me why you agree or why you disagree with Marcy.
Mm-hmm.
And it needs to be more than just, you know, I agree with Marcy. You need to provide some reason behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that, and I liked where the clock was ticking, and it's right up there to the last minute. And then everybody jumps in, and nobody's listening. Everybody's talking at the same time.
Yeah. Good. So you explain why and how. Okay, that's good. But you're right. Like, you know, procrastination is a common trait for most of us, and if you have a deadline, and you know, people estimate about how long it'll take to meet that deadline, and then just submit their work at the very last minute. Yeah. What were you going to say?
I teach several different online courses.
Yeah.
One here, and then I also teach for community college in Denver. And in both of my courses, both of the schools, I said I prolong or divide up this last minute posting. Mm-hmm. So I actually have them post the first one in the middle of the week, the second one a little later, and then the third one at the end of the week.
Interesting.
But again, it's in the 5 minutes to the end of the hour, everyone posts their stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
yeah, and so, you know, you wonder, okay, how much thought is really going into each post? Right. If they're focused on the deadline and just, you know, maybe posting to meet the deadline. All right. Would one of you mind reading this? Thanks.
In a day not far from now, we will be able to break down the barriers of time and space and create outstanding interactive educational experiences where students will teach one another in new and powerful ways.
Okay. So this is in 2005, and we have made some progress, but you know, I think there's a lot of room for improvement for each of us to be able to create outstanding interactive educational experiences for the students. So think about your optional discussion boards, and some of you may not have thought of these as optional discussion boards. Things like, in my class, we have these discussion boards called Ask a Question discussion boards. Do you have some of those? So, you know, within a lesson, we might talk about a topic. I teach financial management, so we might discuss a topic like solving for a future value. And then there's an optional Ask a Question discussion board where the students can try to further their understanding of that topic by asking questions of other students and of the instructor, but it's completely optional. There's course questions, you know, that's usually optional for students to post questions on course questions. Maybe reviews prior to an exam, notes from instructor. Have any of you made your notes from instructor page a discussion board?
They are, but I don't get any.
They are discussion boards on yours, but people don't do much yet. Okay. You have?
This semester I have a class that has the notes from Instructor as a discussion board.
Okay.
And I'm getting a lot of posts there.
Okay.
My other classes mostly it was email communications.
Okay.
It was kind of different because there was another channel I hadn't realized it was there until
Yeah.
like a week into the course.
What types of posts are you seeing on that Instructor page?
Mostly about like for instance, there's a problem with the quiz or there's a
Policies and procedures.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, as we're halfway through the course, I'm getting more content-based. So, can you explain what I can find in this particular topic based off our exercises and assignments?
Okay. All right, good. And then Adobe Connect. We don't often think of Adobe Connect as a discussion board, but often when you have small group cases, in our class we have all these small group cases, and you have that option just below your instructor profile in the course folder to create groups for your students, and in Adobe Connect. And I don't know if you've ever done that and then gone into the Adobe Connect room just after a group case was due. I was surprised that it was being used as much as it was in my class. I didn't emphasize it. I just set up the groups and said, you can use this as well to coordinate with one another. Most of the use was just using the chat room function, the chat function in Adobe Connect. They hadn't really used the video functionality of it much. But for quality interactive experiences, if they could hear each other's voice and see each other and maybe share, some of them will post a document to the Adobe Connect, and then they can all reference the same document and chat together about that document. But I think that's a great spot for us to improve in these outstanding educational experiences for the students. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
We have one that's built into our course called Reading Reflections, which is based upon their readings, the reading assignment for that week. Okay. And they will post questions in it. Perhaps some of the other features you have here would fill that same requirement, but this is where we do it. Okay. So that they're reflecting upon what they've read, their questions, things that have impressed them, things that they don't understand, things that they would like to extend upon. And how are they non-graded?
How are they interacting with each other? Is it through a discussion board?
It's a discussion board,
okay.
Right? It's a threaded discussion board, and I give them some instructions. You can start a new thread. And
great.
Continue that particular conversation. I will post, I usually have and reserve for each lesson, I have about 4 or 5 questions. I usually wait for the students to post 1 or 2. Then I'll post some of my own to stimulate it. I say, these are some things that are interesting to me.
Great. So if you're not sure what all of your optional discussion boards are, you could find them in your course by going to course menu and then course plan. And if you click on schedule, on the right-hand side, you'll see all the scheduled assignments and assessments. On the left-hand side, there's this unscheduled portion. And there it lists out a lot of these optional discussion boards. So I have a bunch of ask a question discussion boards or exam review discussion boards. That's it.
If you currently don't have these type of discussion boards, I have graded discussion boards. I don't have any ungraded.
Okay.
Am I allowed to add them?
Yeah. Do you know by chance, Christina?
You can change your notes from instructor to a discussion board, but adding the things beyond that, you need to get approval from your course lead to do that. So, or talk to your OCR. Are you the OCR?
For the class I'm thinking about?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So talk to your OCR and ask for one.
Okay.
It wouldn't affect the grading structure. It wouldn't affect any of the course outcomes, but it just provides a place to be able to communicate. And it's easy to add.
How do you change your notes from instructor to
There should be instructions on how to do that in your online instructor community resources and your training resources.
Yeah,
if you can't find it, ask your TGM.
I believe Dave Ashby created some videos
Yeah, I think he
explaining
did.
how to do that. All right.
And it may cut down on your email. You know, if people can read your notes and then they can ask any questions about the lesson right there, it might save a few emails too. You can just instruct your students, hey, post questions, general questions here. You know, obviously if it's of a personal nature, email me, but if other people would benefit, just post it here and then, you know, check there for an answer before you ask me.
Right.
And so it may save you a little time here too.
Great, thanks. All right, here's a student just explaining a quality interaction that he had with with some of his peers. He's going to use the word awesome a lot. Don't get distracted by that. But think about what he did to make the interaction more of a quality interaction, and then let's think about how we can help the students do that in these discussion boards.
Part of teaching one another in the classroom, me and my peers, I've really learned that in order to do so effectively, I better know what I'm talking about. Otherwise, I really can't help them. I really can't be able to teach them. And really, if they're not prepared, they can't really teach me anything. And it just becomes a really boring, dull experience. But in those class times that I have come prepared, and I said, you know, this, and this is what I want to do, this is what I don't understand, and I've come together with another student who's done the same, we have an amazing experience. It is amazing to see the thoughts and impressions that come into your mind about whatever the subject is. Particularly this semester, it's really worked out in my math class, where me and individuals get together and we study, we plan it out, and we figure stuff out. And because we're doing that, because we've put in our part, we've worked hard, the Lord has blessed us with the knowledge that we're looking for. Part of teaching.
All right. You're amazing, not awesome. He is amazing. So you know, he put some preparation into making the interaction, a quality interaction. Optional discussion boards, sometimes students may not come prepared to discuss stuff, or they might fill out, you know, something about some topic that's unrelated. And so if you or another student in your class can model appropriate behavior and model the type of questions that would be good to ask in these discussion boards, that can help. I want to show you an experience I had a year ago. Yeah, these are just some things to think about as we try to establish effective discussion boards. So I had this experience with a student who was an older student. He had some life experiences that were related to the material that we were talking about, and he liked to talk and share his opinions. And we had these optional discussion boards, and he got on there and he just started on his own accord. Challenging other students, posing questions that were somewhat challenging to the other students, just to try to stimulate discussion. And it was great. I saw him do this, and we'd have responses from other students here and there, and I'd add a little bit of feedback. Over time, almost half the class started participating on these optional discussion boards, non-graded, they didn't have to. These are 5 different students. This first student, they came up with their own questions related to the material. This student asked a couple questions, another student responded. Another student asked a question, and then what I really liked to see here was some other students took the original question and said, well, I'll go ahead and read through this. How many years will it take me to reach 100,000 if I have 10,000 now and my interest rate is 2.5%? And a student responds, oh, well, it would take about 93.25 years. You could shave off several years if you could invest in something that gets a better interest rate. Even if you were able to get 4.5%, you could reach your goal in 52 years. So the student took the original question and adjusted it. And this is some critical thinking going on. This is great. And another student added his insight. He said, if you could also save an additional $1,000 each year along with a 4.5%, you could reach your goal in just over 30 years. So this came about because of that one student that started challenging the other students by asking great questions that he came up with that were interesting and engaging. And so my thought there was maybe we could reach out to one or two students each semester that we could ask them to model
a spark plug in the
be a spark plug in the discussion board. Ask them to help the students teach one another and help the experience be more of a quality experience by coming up with a great question to ask your peers. And that might help get things started in there. So I was teaching another section at the same time, and I started learning from this student. Vice President Broadhead mentioned this morning, that some of the learning isn't just student to student learning or teacher to student learning, but student to teacher. And so I started asking similar questions in this other section where there wasn't much interaction going on. And I started getting some responses in a similar manner. And so I encourage you, even if you don't have a student asking great questions, to start asking your own questions, coming up with unique questions. And even when it seems no one's listening. I posted this one and got no response. So just continue to ask great questions. Yeah.
Something occurred to me. One of the problems that I have in my course is that I have the exams are really tough.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm working with the department and with my OCR and the whole course council on revising that. But one of the suggestions that came up, and this might be a good way to implement it, is for the students to come up with potential exam questions and post them on the discussion board.
Yeah.
Design their own questions.
Yeah.
And that's part of the whole, I teach the SQ3R method, if you're familiar with that.
I'm not.
It's a reading and study method. Google it one of these times, you'll get 250,000 hits. Read it. It's one of the more popular ones. But one of the first things, SQ, the Q is for question, is to come up with some questions. So having the students design their own questions that they post on that board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With that, you could even teach the students just a hair about Bloom's taxonomy. And have them hit the different, you need 2 recalls and you need 3 application questions or whatever. You could have them actually, because I think not that you'd always, but if it was me as a student, we tend to take the easiest route as possible. So you read through the textbook or whatever material you have and go, oh, there's a fact, change that to a question. So it's all just purely recall. But you can even teach them a little about Bloom's and help them get up those rungs too.
Mm-hmm. Great, excellent. I had a instructor in my teaching group who had a discussion on resumes, and rather than herself just teaching about resumes, she identified 1 or 2 students in her class who had a little bit of resume experience, and she asked them to explain to the other students how to do a resume. And once you get those students teaching one another, students tend to listen more, it seems, and interact more when they know it's a fellow peer that's doing some of the teaching. And maybe it's less risky for them. They feel more comfortable, perhaps. Because, if it's a teacher saying, answer this question, then you don't want to feel dumb or stupid if you don't answer it exactly right. So, just some things to to consider there. So going back to these optional discussion boards, and we'll wrap up here. What are some successes that each of you have had in initiating discussion on any of these optional type of discussion boards, or in what ways will you try to experiment with these discussion boards to try to spark more of this quality interaction? Yeah.
I've had a good experience teaching on Adobe Connect where the teacher, I was actually a student, but the teacher asked a question and then let us kind of decide what our interest was underneath that question.
Mm-hmm.
And then we broke out into discussion rooms inside of Adobe Connect. And then we as students then discussed, it was all synchronously, so that's dependent on that. But anyway, we sat there and discussed face-to-face on all these, the topic that we wanted to talk about, which was
good. And they got on the video, so that they all participated that way. That's great.
Yeah, we were all together. It was a small class, but we all got together on Adobe Connect. It's probably 8 of us in the whole class, so we all got together.
That's great. Yeah, did you raise your hand? Okay. Yeah, these discussion boards are great. We see the text, and there's some thinking that can go on. But if we can look into each other's eyes and you can hear each other's voice, and I think that can add to the outstanding educational experience that we're seeking for. Yeah.
You brought up looking into people's eyes. How many people still have? Let's see. Let me start over. How many of your students update the profile photo?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's that's a good question. What I've done in the past, there's another video, I think Dave Ashby might have put it up there, on how to update your profile for a student. And I just grabbed that when I start my course each semester. If I notice that some of the students don't have an updated profile or don't have a face, I send that video to them and just encourage them to do so. Yeah. Yeah.
On our course, what we do is the students are required to submit a Jane personal introduction.
Okay, great. Submit a, what did you say, a chain?
A Jane.
A Jane. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So all your students do a Jane.
Right.
That's excellent.
Now, some of them really struggle with it.
Yeah.
But they're required to do it.
But that really creates relationships much quicker.
Oh yeah.
Than other things.
And that they post that on a discussion board.
Okay.
And then they.
How do you do that? Is it just an attachment? You can attach a Jing to a discussion board?
It's a link to screencast.com.
Okay, great. Excellent. Well, I think that's part of that vision that we heard from President Clark. Going back to that quickly.
I think some of my students are really overwhelmed with the level of technology they're expected to suddenly jump into. Doing the Jing screencast plus Adobe Connect plus.
Do any of you use it later? Instead of doing a text post, do any of them opt to go back to Jing and do the posting now?
Not really. I haven't seen many. I do some Jing screencasts occasionally to try and explain things.
Right.
Excellent. Yeah, this idea of looking into each other's eyes and hearing each other's voice and things, but also doing it in a way that might break down the barriers of time and space. A Jing screencast might be a great way to accomplish that. So because with all of our international students, one of the great challenge is getting everyone together at the same time, right? Anyway, thank you very much for your insights, and I'd be happy to discuss these things further. But thank you for teaching each other here.